Hey, welcome to Watch Candy. I'm super excited to have you guys here. This is gonna be a very different episode from what you're used to. Guys, I say this every time. But listen, that's just because this channel has a lot of variety, and I think that's a great thing. So what makes the episode today a little bit different than anything else I've done is that today is just an unscripted rant. I know that's not different. Let me get to the different part. God, I need to get a thing of water or something. Hold that thought. Sorry, had to get a water break, you know? This mug makes me feel a lot like Adrian Barker, but, you know, instead of coffee, it's just water, because my mouth is dry. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Today's gonna be a little bit more of a fiery, spicy episode, and it's something that's been on my mind for a good long time, and I've had this opinion formulating for most, if not my entire career as a watch enthusiast. I decided to finally sit down and kind of give you guys my opinion, and that is on Citizen watches, and more like Citizen as a whole brand. No matter where in your watch collecting journey you are, you've definitely heard of Citizen, and that is absolutely the point of the brand. Before I get into my little spiel, I like the mindset that Citizen has with wanting to create a watch for everyone. And I think that's a good thing because I think everyone should wear watches. So yes, I'm biased by that, but I want to give them credit where credit is due. So anyway, guys, let's jump right into my rant. This isn't scripted, so let's see what happens. As you guys can see, I do have Citizen pulled up on my computer here, and that's because I wanted to have this visual reference as I talk about the brand. My point, I feel like, is already apparent when we just look at this home screen. Just from these images, you can see that Citizen is just confusing. Citizen confuses me, at least. Citizen does create a massive variety of watches, and while from a business perspective, that makes sense, right? You want as many people to buy your product as humanly possible. But as an enthusiast who wants to buy into a brand that has a specific meaning, it just lands with broken ankles for me. Of course, starting out with the Tsuyosas, I've owned a Tsuyosa before. I know they've gotten so much hype over the years. I personally don't see it. Part of my job was to sell Citizen watches, and I don't understand why everyone is so crazy about these. Like, yes, it's an integrated bracelet, and that's all cool, I guess. And yeah, a watch for under $500 at all these days is kind of a win. But when I had them in my hands, I just wasn't all that impressed. The case finishing is super standard, like just very meh. The crown being not only recessed and tiny, but also at 430 makes operating the watch so inconvenient. Like, look at that tiny little guy. But the biggest thing for me is the movement. Yeah, it's an automatic movement by Miyota. Guys, take a step back from the specs and look at the thing. Look at this. I'm gonna say this right now as someone who is not only an artist who likes to keep an open mind about all sorts of designs, but also the creator of a channel that focuses on positivity in watches. I just can't defend the way this movement looks. And I am not a movement snob. I will proudly wear Seiko movements, Eda movements, Solita movements, higher grade Miyota movements. Like, when was the last time you saw this movement in a watch? $380 on the website for this is expensive. Anyway, Tsuyosa rant over. That is definitely a little bit more of a tangent. One of the things as I was wearing my Tsuyosa when I owned it was I just couldn't get over the brand. Like, the watch, okay, I got it at a really good deal, you know, employee discounts. Even then, it just felt expensive for what I got. I just couldn't get past thinking about the watches like this. It literally has a plastic bezel. It just brought down the wearing experience for me. I just couldn't get this vibe out of my head. When I wear a watch brand, I like to feel that no matter the price, there is some type of design ethos. There's a base level of quality that you're guaranteed. Go for Casio, for instance. Every watch in their catalog, from $30 to $8,000 with some of those really fancy G-Shocks, they all carry a certain guarantee of either robustness, of quality, but it all relatively falls into its price segments. With Citizen, it's just so ridiculously over the place. To put this into perspective, this watch is more than the Tsuyosa. You get 2 product images, one of the watch and one of the box, and you can just tell that this is not a well-built watch. On the flip side of that, you've got watches like this, which I've never handled in person before, so I can't say as far as my opinion goes, but I've heard really incredible things about these watches. But look at the prices. We've got $3,000, $8,400, $4,200. With some of these, you are in Rolex territory. And I don't know about you guys, but if I'm going to spend Rolex money, I don't want to spend it on a brand that also makes watches like these. You know what I'm saying? Like, here's a point for you. If someone walks up to you and says they bought a Citizen watch, what pops into your head? Do you think, oh no, they just wasted $460 on kind of a crappy mall watch? Or do you think, holy cow, they just spent $3,000 on a watch that low-key could pass as a Grand Seiko from a distance? It just doesn't make sense. Of course, I would love to acknowledge that Citizen's EcoDrive technology is cool. A solar-powered watch that isn't a G-Shock or like that new Tissot. Nice, good job. As far as I'm aware, they were the first company to do this. But again, in what universe does it make sense to have this watch right here be the same brand as this watch right here? Let's have a very brief chat about the titanium. If you don't know, Citizen claims to have created what's called super titanium, which is, quote, 5 times harder and 40% lighter than stainless steel and is scratch and corrosion resistant. If you don't know too much about titanium watches, titanium is known for being far more prone to scratches than stainless steel, although there's titanium oxide, which is, a little bit more scientific than I'd like to get into for this video. The claim with super titanium being 40% more scratch resistant than stainless steel is kinda lofty, and according to a test conducted by Ben from Ben's Watch Club, is false. He does a whole material test, which is really cool. So now, where does all of these points leave us? Now that we've discussed all of my thoughts for the most part, what is my final thesis? And really, it's what the title says. Citizen is weird. They make great stuff, they make atrocious stuff, they have cool technology, but also use questionable movements. And depending on who you ask, they're either mall watches or a really cool and diverse brand with all sorts of technologies and innovations. They're a brand that I really struggle to recommend, especially to people who are new into watches. If you don't know a thing or two about movements and materials and designs and finishing and all of that, there's a really high risk that you'll end up paying so much more for something that is just not worth it. And because of that, I will always just be a little bit skeptical of the brand. But what do you guys think? You very patiently listened to all my thoughts about Citizen, and I thank you so much for that. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Keep it cordial, of course. Do I hate Citizen? No. I never said that. Subscribe to join Watch Candy. I'd love to have you. Thank you so much for watching till the end of this video. Hopefully I didn't ruffle too many feathers. I hope you guys have an awesome day, and I will see you next time.